Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Principal Lisa and I'm here on Happy Families on Pearl 102 FM. During the Corona period, I'm going to be bringing the show to you live from my front room. Now, tonight we are going to be joined by Dr Saliha from the Lighthouse Arabia. Let's bring you in, Dr Saliha. She's just popping through. We're just waiting for a few more people to come on. Just turned 6 o'clock. Hello, everyone. Oh, fantastic. It worked. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi, hello. First of all, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
you are.
Good. Okay, I did actually message a friend and said, am I saying this right? Forgive me. So look, welcome. It's really great to have someone like you on our show, and also talking about something as important as change and loss. So thank you for joining us. Could you begin to tell us a little bit about what you do and about Lighthouse Arabia before we move on to the topic today?
Sure. So I'm a clinical psychologist and the managing director of the Lighthouse Arabia. I'm actually, the Lighthouse Arabia is a mental health and wellness center. It's one of the largest in the region. We have about 30 clinicians working for us, and we cover all age spans. And we have psychiatry, which is medication management, as well as psychology. And then we also have speech and language therapy, as well as occupational therapy for families and children. So we actually go through the whole age span. We have, all the way from prenatal through the elderly. We have a lot of different support groups. We actually are almost a social enterprise in the way we operate. Not almost, but we are a social enterprise. And we have about 17 support groups running right now, which are all led by our professionals. And we have, including grief and loss and infertility and cancer and COVID and motherhood in COVID. So I think if there's a problem, we usually have a support group that actually has something that they can offer. So I encourage everyone to sort of go online and actually look at the different support groups, because those are free of charge.
I mean, I have been meeting with one of your psychologists every week through my school, Kangaroo Kids, and we've been discussing a variety of topics each week that might affect families. And I have been so impressed, not only with Dr. Catherine, but the amazing free services that you've given everybody during this really difficult time. I mean, you guys are an absolute powerhouse of light in Dubai. And on behalf of everybody, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
And so really you have, and I know so many people speak really well of you personally and about your team, and I know lots of people have relied on you in this difficult time. So today we're going to talk about transition, change and loss. Could you tell us about that?
Yes. So I've now lived in Dubai for 11 years. I moved here from the US. And it was and maybe this happens everywhere in the world, but this was definitely a phenomenon that I was super aware of when I got here. And that every June, May or June, the winds of change started to blow. And I found that there was something in the air that was different here than I had ever experienced before. Because we are, majority of the people that live here in Dubai are expats. And so much of our lives are linked to our visas and to our jobs and to our rent agreements, that I found that so much of our life decisions revolved around these factors. And so I've worked, in clinical practice for a very long time here in Dubai. And I noticed that people make decisions to get divorced at this time. People make a decision to move at this time. People make a decision, you know, to sort of get married at this time, move in with each other at this time. So many different changes. And of course, you have graduations that happen, and now kids are leaving off to college. There's a lot of different changes that happen in Dubai in May and June. And this is what I found, that this was where a lot of kids and families were struggling. Either they're moving in around the summer, they're moving out around the summer. And I found that the winds of change were like on a full-blown sort of tornado speed here. And so I wanted to sort of understand that a bit more. So I studied it a little bit, and I found a lot of research about change and transitions. And change is something that happens in a moment. In a moment, you give birth, right? And now you're a new mother. In a moment, you sign on a piece of document and you no longer are married, you're divorced. In a moment, your child graduates and you attend this graduation ceremony. In a moment, life changes and you get told that someone you love has died. In a moment, these things happen. So change is, sometimes people think change is the hard part. Change is a part of life. Everything changes every day. It is the transitions that is the hardest part. And change is something that happens outside of us, where transitions are something that is internal, where we start to relate to that new thing. Like, who am I as a new mother? Who am I as a widow? Who am I as, you know, someone who's no longer has any children in our home because they're all graduated? Like, who am I and what do I do with that? That's what transition is. A new way of being and relating to that identity. So that's where the difference between change and transition happens. Yes.
I mean, I relate to what you're saying personally in so many ways, but also professionally. I think that you know, as a school principal, that this is something that me and all of my colleagues across the world are feeling. The change of not having those graduations, you know, that we didn't get to say goodbye. How do we help the children make that transition from, here they are, maybe they're at the end of year 6 about to go to secondary, or at the end of nursery, they've got to make that next change. And it happened quite quickly, you know, schools closed, and it's something that educators, I think a lot of us are a bit concerned about.
Yes. So, you know, when I'm talking about May and June, I'm talking about every year. This year, it came onto a layer of changes that we could not imagine. This year, we had a change in our life. You know, 80% of our life was turned on its head, right? Changes, all we had was changes for the last 3 months. A sense of normalcy that we lost, a loss of freedom, a loss of travel, a loss of plans, a loss of connection, a loss of not being able to engage with our families the way we were, a loss of being able to go back home and see our grandparents and our mothers and our fathers, a loss of rituals where there's people that were looking forward to their high school graduation, and no longer will they have that march down the aisle and they throw their caps up and everybody's sort of in the space together. There are parents who have looked forward to this moment. There's people who've had to cancel their weddings and all sorts of things. Funerals, where people didn't get to say goodbye to the person they loved because they couldn't travel or they couldn't be there because of COVID. And so rituals are what holds us together. Anytime there's a birth or a death or a moment, we have a celebration, right? We have birthdays, we have New Year's, we have weddings, we have funerals, we have graduations. These are rites of passage that give an honor.
But they also give you closure.
Exactly. You honor the past, and then you say, this is where you head off to. So people feel they didn't get closure. I think that's exactly the right word, Lisa, where I didn't get to say goodbye to this moment in my life, and now you're sending me off to college where I don't know where I'm headed. So it's, people feel very anxious when they don't say goodbye or they don't honor the past.
Yes. And, you know, and I know within myself and people that I'm talking to, you know, as a parent coach, I've supported quite a lot of people during this time. And it's, you know, I don't know at times how to give them the right advice other than the practical solutions of, well, we could do this, we could do that, and how will we support the children? How have you, what advice have you given people during this time?
So at first, I would like to say you need to have a framework in mind. You know, I go really top down rather than bottom up when it comes to these types of things. I think it's important for parents and caregivers of any type to have a framework in mind. And that framework is a framework that I took from William Bridges, who works a lot with corporate restructuring, worked before he passed away. He created this transitions model. And this transition model is actually a framework where I sort of molded it into a parenting framework. And that is the 3 stages of a transition. And the 3 stages of a transition basically are the first stage, where you have an ending or a letting go. Number 2 is what they call the neutral stage, but that's not a very neutral stage. I would actually call it the ambiguous stage.
Yes.
And then the 3rd stage is where the new beginning happens. And so usually it takes people 6 to 8 weeks to move through into this new state. And that's about 2 months. And 40 days is the magic number usually for the psyche and the self and everything to sort of say, oh, okay, I got this. Now, if you think back, Lisa, you think back to when we first started COVID, right? On March 18th or 19th, and everybody's, oh my God, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? How am I going to homeschool? And how am I going to work from home? And people are freaking out. That's stage 1. You're freaking out. There's denial, there's anger, there's fear, there's uncertainty, there's havoc, there's chaos. Very normal as part of the first stage. So I think if parents have some of these frameworks in mind, and they realize that some of these stages will come, and this is just part of normal stage 1, where children will be freaking out, and I will be freaking out, and the parents will be freaking out, and everybody but what you need to do is give very clear instructions and transparency at this time. And you need to tell your children, this is all that has changed. This is all that has stayed the same. Kids need to know that something stayed the same. We're still going to have movie night on Wednesday. We're still going to have school every morning till 2:45. You're just going to show up to school here in this way. So some of that stuff is part of stage 1. Now,
and it's about having those. Do you feel that, I mean, I do personally, and I felt very much so, that we needed some familiar rituals to kind of anchor us, particularly the children. So for some families, you know, we were recommending that the children wore their uniform. We weren't obviously enforcing it, but we said, how about it if you 100%. Did this? You know, and but I think there's a lot of awareness about the grieving process, but this is a new process that people could begin to become aware of, the transition process that you were talking about.
Well, the transition process is, the feelings are very much like the grief cycle. You will actually see people reject and deny. No, we're not going to do this. There's no way this is going to work. There's no way this is going to work. Like, this is what most people are in stage 1. There's a lot of fear, denial, disorientation, frustration. All of that would come with stage 1 of the denial phase. Then you have anger. Like, no, how can this happen to us? This is not real. You cannot make me sit at home forever. This is what most kids are thinking. I have 4 children of my own, so I've heard it all at this point. And really, I've heard it all. And there's a sense of loss and a sadness that kicks in. But in the neutral stage, this is where you're in this plateau. You're not freaking out anymore, but you're still not feeling very settled at this point. You're still sort of hovering and drifting and anxious and worried and resentful, low morale, low mood. So this is part of the bargaining. Like, what if I social distance for 2 weeks? Will I be able to go out? What if I don't wear a mask when I'm in the car? What if, like, you start to bargain with reality, right?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Then you move into a low sort of state where you might be depressed. You might say, oh my God, this is it. This is reality. Then you move up into an acceptance phase. So you do move through the emotions of the grief cycle, but it happens in these three sort of stages within like 6 to 8 weeks. And then you have a lot more energy. You see kids, of course they're going to be sad. Of course kids are going to be sad. Of course they're not going to be happy. I have a child who is supposed to be graduating from middle school to high school, and one that is supposed to be graduating from elementary into middle school. So this is like moments that they've like waited for their whole life. And it's like, okay, show up on Zoom just like every other day. And it's just a bummer. But just sort of reminding them that the whole world is suffering right now, because kids can be a little bit self-oriented, obviously. Reminding them that the whole world is in the same place as them, having them zoom out a little bit, and then relate to that a little bit differently would be important. I think one thing that I would tell parents is that you can't fix this. You can't fix this. They will hurt. They will suffer. They will be anxious. They will be sad. We can't fix that. And how do you just stay with that?
And I think, isn't that a parenting skill in general, that we have to understand that our children have to go through disappointment and hurt, and that through that's how those life skills, that's how they develop. But what if you were listening right now and you were thinking, well, I feel the same as you, Dr. Saliha, I'm in your same boat, I've got children in these transitions. What can parents, so now they recognize the transition, is there anything practical that supports children through the other side a bit quicker, or they just have to go through it?
Well, one thing you did say that, having as much routine as possible. So usually there's five things that I say children need in a time of transition. 5 things that they need. One thing is that they need to be included in some of the decisions because they feel so powerless.
Yes.
The essence of childhood is powerlessness. And so powerlessness equals anxiety. So you're going to have kids that feel very anxious because they have no control. And what they knew of their life, which was certain, is all of a sudden blown out of water. And now you're uncertain and powerless, which is the definition of anxiety. And so I would try to give them as much certainty, which is the routine that you mentioned, have them show up on their desk every morning in this way, in this time. You have this on a Thursday night, you do this on a Friday morning, you do this on a Tuesday, So this kind of predictability gives them a sense of containment and safety. So that would be very important, that when they feel life is uncertain, you give them some certainty and some routine. Now, don't be rigid about it. Like for example, tonight we have movie night. And so every Wednesday, this is what we do. But like, usually if there's a rule here or a rule there, you might have to be a little bit more flexible, but they should know that there's a bedtime at 8:30 and there's a waking up at this time. And this is where we show up to our table and to do our homework. And this is when we play basketball. And this is just a rhythm to their day. Now, the next thing would be to be included in some of that scheduling. Like, what day do you think we should do this? And what movie do you think we should watch? And what game do you think we should play on game night? Now, these things sound so sort of, they sound so minute for us, but this is where...
they're a big deal. And what you're doing is you're giving choices within a frame. And I say to parents all the time is we do need routine, we do need consistency and predictability, but we do need freedom within it. And the freedom is, do you want to watch Kids Inc. or Jungle Book? Which movie? Or do you have another movie in mind? So there's power for them. You get their buy-in. Is that what you mean?
100%. 100%. And that's very much linked to one of the other needs that they have, is the need to be able to say no. If they say, no, Mom, I don't want to watch anything tonight, even though, like, what do you mean? We have Friday lunch every week. But they say, I don't want to come to Friday. This might be a teenager, maybe someone a little bit older. And they say, actually, I just want to stay in my room and I just want to lay in my bed and stare at the ceiling. All right. I'm going to let you do that once, even though it's a tradition and a ritual in our family to have lunch every Friday together. But you know what? It's okay. You can sleep in today and we won't have you do that. So they need to be able to say no to some things in times of change and transition and loss. They need, that's again their power, which is basically what you're saying is give them options, give them choices within a frame. So this is not that we're watching, the Desperate Housewives. We're watching in Jungle Book or we're watching Kids Inc., but we're watching something that is consistent with your values.
Now, can I ask you a question? So I'm a mother. I've actually taught my own children, the poor things. And so there you are. Your children will know that you're a clinical psychologist. Do you sometimes speak to them and they say, oh, don't do the psychology thing on me, Mum? Do you get that? Because I used to have, don't talk to me like a teacher, Mum.
No, I usually, most of my rules, like I drove my mother crazy when I was younger because I would be like, why? Why can't I sleep at night? Why can't I? So anytime they ask me why, I say, would you like me to create a PowerPoint? Because I can do it. And they're like, no, don't do that. Because once they actually said yes, and then I had all sorts of research. I send them articles, 3 of them, I have ages 14, 12, 11, and 5. And so 3 of them, they have iMessage on their computer. And so I send them articles about why you can't have social media and why you need 12 hours of sleep and why. So they're very informed. Like, I'm not making these rules up. You can do whatever you want. You just can't do these things because there's research that tells you you shouldn't. And so they stopped asking me. And I think they trust me, to be honest, Lisa. I think they trust that I don't make up rules that are arbitrary. I'm not going to tell you to go to bed at 8:30 if I did not think that your life depended on it or your mood depended on it. And so there are times where like, I don't really feel like, watching this, or I don't really feel like going there. I'm not really one of these sticklers on some of these things. I feel there should be a lot of freedom and there should be a lot of different opportunities. But when I say no, they know that if they open their mouth, I'm going to give them all sorts of research, and so they're afraid of that.
And then they're like, "Yeah, no, Mum, I don't want the
Never mind.
PowerPoint." Yeah, no, I do.
Exactly.
I had to ask you because my children would be like, "Don't talk to me like I'm one of the children in your class."
No, I haven't gotten that. To be fair, like these kids, like I think I'm pretty real with them. So I haven't gotten that yet, but they're afraid of my PowerPoints, I have to say.
Well, I'd love one of your PowerPoints. Great idea. So we have you were going through the five tips. So I just want to get, so we had the routine.
Say no.
Yeah.
No, routine comes, routine will come as just a frame. That's just the frame, but their needs are to be included as part of that routine. The need to feel included in some of these decisions that you make, which is what you said about letting them choose what show they watch, but they're still telling them that you have 1 hour to watch it. So they're not on TV all day long, right?
Yeah.
So that would be one. The second one is going to be where they have the power to say no to some of these things. These are rituals. Maybe you have Friday lunches or movie nights or game nights, but they just don't want to do that this 1 week. So just, okay, it's okay, honey. You don't have to do it this week. We'll go back to our routine and our ritual next week, but it's okay to say no. That will be the second. They need to feel empowered. The third thing is that they need to feel connected. And you're going to have to be a little bit more creative with that during COVID. But, there are people who are doing like social distance picnics, and they sort of, you hover around in your own space, but you're staying away from each other, or they go to the beach and, you give them some options where they're still seeing people and they're still being able to sort of, feel like they're part of a community. The importance for them to feel connected to their family members, to their friends. It's a very important need of a child. And it's really difficult for little kids whose developmental task is for them to feel connected to their fellow mates, right?
I mean, one of the things that I noticed with the families that I've been working with over the last few months is that the pressures on parents have been more than what they normally would be. So parents, yes, they were working from home, but their hours were longer, the demands felt more, they needed to be on their phones more, and families that normally would find time to have some quality time with each child found themselves unable to do that, and things felt, you know, quite chaotic.
Yeah.
How do you perhaps in your family find time to be with maybe each child, or as a collective group, as a family, to connect? What would your tip be with that?
Well, one thing is for sure, I think parents who are trying to work at the dinner table and, you know, in the family room, don't do that, because then you end up, you know, the child comes, because a lot of parents, you know, they don't wear work clothes. They're sitting in their jeans and their t-shirt when they're going to work,
Yeah.
and they're working on their phone on a very serious task. Don't do that to your kids. It sends very confusing messages. So I have a desk. I will lock the door. I will wear my work clothes. I will be on my laptop at my desk. I will have my headset on, which says do not disturb. That way my kids know I'm working. I might be at home, but I am working from home. And so I will come to you. And then when I leave my work, I change out of my work clothes, I put on my jeans, and then I
Me
go down
too.
to the kids. And
Me
that
too.
way it's very clear to them, okay, she was at work and now she's no longer at work. So this whole idea of I will sit, and I've done it, and this is why I speak from a very deep place of conviction, which is I've sat on the sofa downstairs in our sort of seating area, and I've been working just because I wanted to keep an eye on them. No, they were disruptive, and I kept saying, listen, I'm working, listen, I'm working.
Yeah.
And they just hear that as rejection and rejection and rejection.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that to anybody. So just disappear if you have to for a certain amount of time. Check in with them every hour. So there are times where I sort of go and I check in on my kids during their school day, and I say, how's everything and how are you doing and how are you doing? I will do that, but I will not work in front of my children, because it's just
But I really think that it's important that we schedule in time of where we're going to work, and I will be back at this time, or we'll do this when I finish, and that there is a framework to the day, just for your own well-being, you know, as a parent, because you. Yeah, and I sort of kind of famously throughout the whole of this process, every day, you know, makeup on and jewelry, the whole, as if I was going to work. And for me, that was how I wanted to manage my situation. But I think it's been very difficult for families who are just juggling so much at the moment. And I like your idea of kind of going into your room and shutting the door. And I wonder if other people listening in on this could relate to what Dr. Saliha is saying.
And the way I actually scheduled it, it wasn't like I just shut the door for 8 hours. Like that would be like the house would probably burn down if I did that. But I actually was doing these 1 hour meetings, and then I would have a block where I would go check in on everybody, make sure everyone is okay. Then I would have a 1 hour block, and then I would make sure everyone is okay. So there is a way to do it where you are very much watching these kids. The nanny is told, make sure that she sits here and finishes this before she gets up. So there is a lot of orchestration happening. But when I'm working and it's focus time, I'm shutting the door and I've got my headset on that says, even if you open the door, you better not come talk to me if I've got this headset on.
Yeah, because that's a boundary, isn't it? And so that's predictable. That boundaries, you know, do give us some sense of predictability. So we've gone through, I think we're at tip number 4. So I want to make sure we get these 5 tips in. So where have we gone to? We've done routine, choices.
Routine, choices, being able to say no. No, it was routine, including them in the changes, and so that's that's 1. Number two is being able to say no. So routine and choices is 1. Being able to say no. Having your friends and family around in some way. They still need to stay connected. They cannot feel isolated, and you with them and they with you. Number 4 would be to be able to have a space of expression. Actually, I'll start with another one. I will actually say a place where they are heard. Now, one of the ways that I do that is to have a family meeting. A family meeting where you bring your concerns once a week, and it's literally like a meeting where I will schedule it in and everyone brings it to the table. What are your concerns? One of the things that we're actually like thinking about and thinking, oh my God, how are we going to do this is, what are we going to do this summer? Like, how are we going to do this?
Yes.
Do you have any ideas? Do you have any plans? You know, we're not going anywhere. I don't want to travel. No, thank you. And so what are some of the plans? So my kids are now coming up with staycation ideas, or, you know, what are we going to do at home, and what is expected of the parents, and what is expected of the kids, and how many books a week will you read, and this kind of stuff. So we're now starting to come together as a family to come up with a family plan. So family meetings is a place where children are heard. However, this is the one thing that most families or most parents actually are not very good at. They're not very good at listening to their children. The children will come and they will say, oh my God, I hate COVID. And then they'll say, you know how many people are suffering in the world?
Oh,
Do
yes.
you know how many people?
Do you know how lucky you are?
Exactly. And so it's like, okay, well, never mind. So this need to be heard is not being served. And so creating a little bit of space. And this is also how you cultivate emotional intelligence in children. When someone comes and says, I hate COVID, and you say, tell me about that. What do you hate about COVID? Yeah. Oh, I hate that I can't see my friends, and I hate that I can't see my grandparents. I hate that I can't travel. Instead of saying, you're so ungrateful. You have so many things right now. This is what we end up doing. We start doing like virtue signaling here, and then we actually don't give them a space to express that. And they need to be heard. And so that is going to be one of the things. And then lastly, it's going to be a place of expression, which is very close to being heard, but heard is where they're actually talking. A place to express that, art, music, you know, sport, physical activity, where they're expressing some of their frustration, because that makes them feel more empowered. Remember, change equals uncertainty, and powerlessness is childhood. And so how can we create a sense of empowered selves in our children? And that is going to come a lot through being able to express some of that in their express some of that through physical activity. My daughter, she's an artist, not an artist in the sense, but she draws. She likes to draw. One of my kids likes to write. So write, you know, draw, exercise, do what you need to do to express some of that frustration, not through verbal means. So those would be the last two, is to give them a platform where they can actually share that with you without you feeling like you have to be positive all the time. Be okay with sitting in the space that your children are not happy. And that's okay. They're not.
Can I end asking you a question? Is you've got children of different ages. I mean, you've been so fantastic tonight, Dr. Saliha, to give your time to us when you've got 4 children outside who need their mum.
Yeah, and they're like, entering the door.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'm happy we can say goodbye, but I just wanted to ask you how you managed to give the information about COVID to your children across the multiple ages. Did you make the decision based on age and stage and what they need to know, or how did you manage that as a parent?
Yeah, so all of my children have a therapist. So I would like to say that I'm not doing this alone, and they've had a lot of space to process. And so my children see a therapist at the Lighthouse where they do a lot of this processing once a week. And even my 5-year-old, she's had a therapist since she was 3. And we basically call them emotional coaches. And emotional coaches, and where Salama, who is 5 years old, and she says, my brothers are driving me crazy. And so she talks to her therapist talking about how do you cope with that. And so one thing I would like to say is a lot of their processing is happening through their emotion coaches. The second thing I would say is that, yes, I did have to go to my 5-year-old and teach her about germs and the pepper experiment and the bacteria, antibacteria, and all of these things.
Yeah.
But I would really like to highlight one thing, is that children will do as you do, not as you say. I can say all types of things all day long about, hey, we need to be strong as a family, and then be losing it, right? Screaming and shouting and yelling, and that's just not going to be a good look for these kids. They actually have seen me and my husband. They have actually seen us saying, okay, well, this is what it is, and this is how we're going to work. This is going to be my desk. This is where I will do it. This is where you will do it. And we've been a bit pragmatic about things. And this is how our schedule is going to look. What do you think our schedule should look like? So strategic about things, where they've influenced some of that strategy. And they've just seen us sort of take this thing a little bit lightly. That, yeah, we're not traveling this summer, but we'll be together, and that's what it's going to look like. COVID is a real thing. There's people dying in the world. This is not, something that, and we are one of the very, very, very lucky ones to be able to be safe, and to be able to have a home, and to be able to have family together, that we could be, and that we like each other, even though we drive each other crazy sometimes. But for me, it was really very important to regulate myself, which is not something we got to mention. That children have these 5 needs to express and to say no and to be heard and etc. But children need an anchor, and that anchor is me. And if I am off, it's all off. And so I really need to spend some time with myself. I'll be sipping on my tea. Once I'm done here, I'm going to sit alone. The children are sort of outside. I can hear them right now, but I'm not going to go out of my guilt that I haven't seen them for the last 3 hours, go running out and try to be with them. No, I'm going to give myself some time to say, okay, let me end off my work day. Let me transition into motherhood at this time, full time. Let me close off my emails. Let me close off my messages if there's anything. So it's very important. It doesn't matter what I say, is to make a long story short. It doesn't matter what I say about COVID. Is it, what did I do about COVID? How did I take COVID? Was it with a sense of lightness of being? Was it a sense of optimism that was real? It was not like living in la la land and, hey, we're going to be a family and everything is going to be okay. No, it wasn't that. This is hard. This is tough. And they saw me having one mental breakdown. It was just one in the last 4 weeks, even though
I'm relieved to know that you had a moment, Dr. Saliha.
No, I think I had 5. I had 5 in the last 3.5 months, but only one where they witnessed it, where I was like, I can't do this, so I've had 5 of those moments, but only one where the tears were coming out and I thought, oh my God, I can't do this. This is too much for me. And so my kids did feel quite empathetic. And, I think it's really important that they see you vulnerable, they see you struggling, but then you pull it together the next day and you say, okay, I'm going to do this again. I think it's a very important thing for them to see that. And so there was a sense of like a realistic optimism that I brought to my family. And I think they just sort of learn from that. They say, okay, this is what we do in times of crisis. We get a routine in place. Every single kid was exercising. We all got Fitbits. I need 10,000 steps from all of you. So there was something that we did that, and they saw me doing it. And so modeling is the most important thing.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, it is. It's about modeling. And because that's the way that children learn, that's how they mimic us. But we're going to have to say goodbye to you. But I've loved listening to you. And as you're chatting, so many people are sending love hearts, thanking you for your valuable tips. Anna's telling us that she thinks we've got to get creative this summer with how we're going to, deal with the summer.
100%.
And if I was saying about being open and genuinely speaking about any issue with children. So there's lots of people saying it's useful and benefiting from what you've had to say today. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And the good news is, everybody, that on Happy Families, each Wednesday, someone from the Lighthouse Arabia is going to join us. And I promise you, the moment this is finished, I'm going to save this live and it'll be on Pearl FM. So tonight you've tuned in to Happy Families with Principal Lisa, which because of COVID, we're doing from home, but it's a show about supporting families. So you've been perfect. But next Wednesday, we've got a different psychologist joining us. So, and then hopefully we'll see you again. But I'm going to say goodbye because I've got Mamalou Kitchen who's waiting to jump in and who has the most inspirational story and practical cooking advice. She's got this cooking range for children. So I'm going to say goodbye to you and thank you, Dr. Saliha, and let you get to the children. All right?
Thank you so much.
Stay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody stay with us, and I'm going to be bringing in Mamalou Kitchen. She's going to be coming in and telling us how we can cook meals just from what's in our store cupboard. And hopefully she's just coming in just a second. Let's get her in. Mamalou, are you there? Are you there, Lou? Going to come in and chat to us? Here she is. She's coming in right away. Here you are, Lou. You can come in and chat to us. Hello, darling. Hi. Thank
How
you.
How are you?
Do you know, I'm so sorry for keeping you waiting, but Dr. Saliha had so much that we all needed. So I think a lot of us were taking notes there.
Not at all. I'm just going to, sorry. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
But I'm really glad that you got the memo about wearing the hairband.
Twinning. I love it. And that was such a nice talk. I learned so much. I felt a bit guilty during that talk at many times, but it was very interesting.
Yeah, I know. And I did. And I was pleased, though, to hear that that she'd had 5 moments of when she'd cracked a bit during COVID.
That was my favorite part. I just felt, we're in this together.
I only had 3, so I'm cheating you. Okay, so look, welcome to Happy Families with Principal Lisa, but this is not the first time you've been on this show. You were on almost a year ago, but when we were in the studio, so welcome back. It's really nice to see you. So tell us about you, your business, and what's been happening for you over the last year.
So I have a cooking studio where we teach children, nannies, couples, corporate, team building, everybody how to cook. And it's in Nakhil Mall in the Palm at the Pachika Food Hall. So I had that happening this year, which was huge. And then the food products range, which is called Easy Freezy. And it's an all natural frozen food line for families, their family portions, and it's all about healthy convenience. So you, especially now during, I think, like I'm so happy. I'm my biggest customer. Sorry.
You're the biggest. Yeah, but you know what it tastes like. Is that because you know what it tastes like? You're like, I'm having that for dinner tonight.
It's just now with Corona, like it really came in handy. Like I did it to give, you know, I know as a working mom, sometimes we don't have time. And then especially when play dates happen, like the neighbor's kids come over and you're like, oh, I have to cook a double portion now. And so it's really convenient. And I know exactly what's going in them. All the proteins are hormone free. We use Himalayan pink salt, you know, it's very healthy, nothing. Yeah, and it's literally from freezer to oven.
So can you give me an idea of, you know, what you would get with Easy Freezy? Like a lasagna or a pasta, or what would be the favorite meal?
So we have 11 products. We've got our best sellers. We have a bit of Arabic and a bit of international, but the best seller is one Arabic dish, which is the vine leaves with cranberry. So it's like the traditional vine leaf, but we did a twist on it and we serve it with a secret sauce and the cranberries, and it's really good. We have a meat version and a vegetarian, which is a vegan option. It's filled with rice. They're really good. Even my kids love them. So that's one of our best sellers. And then we've got The other Arabic variation are kibbeh. So we've got a pumpkin kibbeh tray that goes straight from freezer to oven in the tray. It comes in the tray. And then we have more international, which we've got smiley face mini pizzas for kids, and they have hidden vegetables. We've got mini burgers.
Oh, great idea. We love that. That's a
Yeah.
brilliant idea.
It's got 5 hidden vegetables, and kids don't even know what they're eating. We've got the burgers.
Well, they
as
do
well.
now if they're listening. So, yeah.
Yeah, my kids don't. They're like under 5, so they.
As you're talking,
Yeah.
Someone's just put, wow. So
Yeah.
the idea of easy freezy meals is obviously really exciting, but for some people listening, they might not know about you and your story. So how did all this come about? You know, I know that you're a mum as well.
Yes, I started around 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. I went from being married with no kids, and then we got my eldest, who's 6, and then a year later, not even a year, 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant with twins. And so it was a crazy year. It was all a blur that first year. When my twins were young, I found myself, I love cooking. I studied hospitality, and I used to have these dinner parties. Needless to say, after 3 kids under 2, that was all over. So I thought, okay, great. We're fortunate enough in this region to have an extra pair of hands, and you know, like, we're so lucky that we have service, and we've got nannies, and we've got amazing housekeepers that can help. It's more affordable than in Europe and America, and being closer to Asia. And so I thought, oh, I'd love to teach my amazing nanny how to cook, so she can help us out during this time, because I found myself like cooking for everybody, the twins, and like puree, no salt, with salt, you know, like different, because I was like weaning. And I thought, okay, let me send her to a nanny cooking school, and I couldn't find one. And that's when the light bulb went off, and I said, oh, I must do this. This would be great for all the moms out there. And so we started training nannies how to cook. That was how it all started.
Wow.
And then it became a really, really organic growth, where all the moms sending the nannies were like, we want to come. And I said, oh, it wasn't part of the idea. You know, it's the whole mission behind it is one mom to other moms, feeding families. So
I've just got to tell you, Kian's just messaged to say that they love your classes, Mum.
Thanks. They're awesome. I know that they have an amazing like kids activity channel. So they I
shall look forward to checking.
Yeah.
I shall look forward to checking them out.
I do a lot of things for my kids, from their like adventures. So they have a great.
You know, the day you started, you know, it must have been, well, I don't know if this is going to work. You know, I don't have any followers. I don't have any customers. And, you know, when you look back on that, and here you are, I looked at you earlier, you know, I've known you for a year, and I've seen you rocket in that last year. You've got 40,000 followers on Instagram. You're an absolute legend.
Oh, God. I don't know if I'm a legend. I'm in the kitchen a lot.
Yeah, and you know I love your cupboards.
Yes.
But so look, you know, imagine there was somebody listening into this call today who has an idea, who has a dream, what would you say to them to encourage them so that, you know, eventually their dream could happen like yours?
You really need to love what you do. I know it's cliche, and everybody always says it all the time. It's old news, but you work so hard as an entrepreneur. Like it's not like a day job is 9 to 5 or 6, and then you leave and you're like, I'm gonna watch Netflix and I'm done. With your own business, you work from 9 until 1 a.m. 12, especially the first couple of years. So it's double and triple the work. But if you're really loving it, you enjoy every minute, and you're working for yourself. And you know, it's a risk. It's much more work. But if you love it and you believe in what you do, I say go for it. Like, for sure. Like, like, I love that it's the time, like I'm doing it for me, you know, no matter how hard I work, it's for me. And it's, I'm going to be so passionate about it because it's like, for me, it's for my kids. It's, you know, no one's going to want to work till midnight unless it's really your business. So it does come naturally, but you've got to love what you do. You've got to love what you do. You've got to be good at what you do. And there has to be a need in the market. That's like the annoying talk, you know, in the end, like that, the rational talk. So find needs, be good at it, and love it, and you'll do well, I think.
And I've met your husband as well. Actually, I met one of your boys last year. You know, and your family is so, you know, so supportive.
They're amazing.
And I just remember meeting you, and I remember coming out of the studio, and it was like you were the next guest, and it was like this whirlwind of energy, just kind of just.
You have the same energy. You have the same.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, I like her. But you just, it's energy and this powerhouse.
I felt the same way.
In. Yeah. So, and I've watched your story ever since, and yeah, so it's really inspiring, and I just hope, that well, I know your business will be a success, and I should get onto the Palm soon and get hold of some easy.
Yeah, you must come. You must come to one of my cooking classes. I'm waiting for you. Just say when.
I'm definitely coming, and I'll try and behave, because actually you'd be surprised.
We don't
I was actually quite naughty in school. People are always surprised. Well, how can you do your job when you were naughty at school? It just means I knew all the tricks.
How ironic. Now
I know. I was not the teacher's dream at all. But can you tell us, one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I saw on your Instagram that you had this situation where you said, look, if you're short of shopping because you haven't been able to get out to the shops, what can you make from your store ingredients? Could you give us some ideas of what we could do?
Yeah, so I did a segment about like pantry cleanup, which everyone loved. Go to IKEA, buy some jars, you'll feel like a new person, and just make everything look the same. Yeah, I got a picture yesterday as well, so it's under pantry talks on my highlights. But anyway, so the staples, especially with Corona, when it was hard to get things from the supermarket, we went through like a bit of a situation where you'd order something online, it would take 3, 4, 5 days to come.
Yeah. I'm desperate for strong white bread flour. In fact, actually, I hope nobody minds, but if you wanted to make bread and you'd normally use strong white bread flour, what flour would you use, Lou?
I use a lot of like the rye and the spelt and this, like I like to mix.
Right.
I like to make strong. You could probably use 00 flour.
It's double O.
Yeah, double O. And you can find that. What's nice also now. What happened is a lot of the people, like the suppliers of my cooking school and all the restaurants, the people no one heard about, right? Because they're not supermarkets. They're like suppliers of restaurants. Yes. And now, due to COVID, they've all turned mainstream, and they supply to people at homes, which is amazing. That means the average person can now order like amazing flour online from these premium suppliers that usually sell to like.
Give us a couple of names.
So there's Secret Fine Foods is
great.
Secret Fine Foods. They've got like if you want a really good burrata, like a restaurant, very good burrata, you can order from there. You've got Casinetto, where you could probably get your strong flour. It's an Italian supplier. You've got Fresh Express. You can order like Wagyu and lobster and like things all kinds of cheeses.
I'm hanging on your every word there. I'm like, what? You can get like restaurant quality burrata.
You can get restaurant for good prices online, delivered to your doorstep. It's all accessible. They've basically changed their model now, where it's no longer like the supplier, like everybody has their supplier, and it's the trade secrets. And they've gone
great news.
Yeah, and they actually, like, while I was in the whole situation, Corona, and all the supermarkets would take 3-4 days, I was ordering from them, and they would do next day delivery. So because they're still coming out now. So yeah, amazing. You've got amazing suppliers, and you can make restaurant-worthy meals in your home now and find the craziest stuff, like craziest. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we definitely need to get in touch with them. So we got Secret Find.
And there's the fish market of Dubai, the best kept
Yes.
secret, and they do delivery. You just like, if you need a number for like, they'll actually deliver it to your door. He'll take a video. It's all like, it's insane. He'll take WhatsApp on like all the fresh fish that have arrived in the Dera fish market, and then you'll say, I want 1 kilo of that 1 kilo, and then they'll just deliver it to your door.
Wow, that's cool. That really is
for great prices.
Yeah, exciting. But you know, we've talked about that when we can get past some of this coronavirus, that we're going to do a live cooking show on Happy Families.
Yes.
And I'm going to come to you or your kitchen, and we're going to show everybody a kind of store cupboard meal. So give us a store cupboard meal for us before we close.
So have always beans in handy, loads of beans, go crazy, like every kind of.
Do you mean tinned beans or dry?
No, dry. Those are pantry. Right. We don't use tins and cans, okay? Unless it's plum tomatoes, because they're really good. But try to avoid any cans. And then those are really pantry staples because they stay like forever, and I feel like you could do much more, and you get much more.
Why are we avoiding tins?
It's unhealthy, and first of all, you just get much more. Like if you get like a bag of beans, you could do much more than 1 can. 1 can is 1 portion. With 1 bag of beans, it's literally probably 2 family portions. So that's 10 people versus 1 person.
Okay. But
for the same price.
What if you've forgotten to soak them overnight?
There are beans that you don't need to soak, and that are very quick cooking beans, like lentils. Every kind of lentil, especially split lentils, you just have to rinse them, and then you can cook them. There are a lot of grains as well that are so easy to cook. We're talking about 15 minutes cooking. So you've got millet, you've got, besides quinoa, which is known, you've got burghal, coarse burghal. You can make like a pilaf. Just add tomato paste, fry an onion, add the washed burghal, the coarse one, add some tomato paste, turmeric, and then you can add any vegetables of choice. You add water like rice, you close it, it's done in 15 minutes. That's a pantry staple and if you have that, same with like a lentil, you can make any dal dish, add some curry, chopped tomato, chopped garlic, onion, a bit of ginger if you have, put the dal, and then you just boil it until puree, and you're gonna come out with the dal. So like a very simple dal. So I would say definitely beans were huge during Corona, like chili. And then if you have a pressure cooker, you're set for life.
But you just got yourself a new pressure cooker, haven't you?
I've gotten the Instant Pot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a great bean cooker. And it's also a great, like, I think, different beef cut, like lamb shanks and braised ribs. And you just kind of put them in, and you put whatever you want, spices, and you just close it and you forget about it. And you come back, and then you've got this amazing meal. It's crazy.
So like I've got a slow cooker, so I would do that, except that it goes like this: chicken, stock cube, water, go to work. I have to say, I think they're great, because at least when you come home, and I find myself thinking about the chicken in the slow cooker during the day, thinking, I bet that'll taste nice later.
Yeah, it has a
what
slow
can you
cooker
put in?
option.
So you're going to work, you put a chicken or something in your Instant Pot. What could you put in?
To be honest, I'm loving the pressure cooker. I'm more of a fan of pressure cooking than slow cooking. Slow cooking is better for bone broths, like things that need 24 hours to retain the nutrients, meats. But I don't have the patience, and I keep coming and going, and I feel like melt off the bone lamb shanks in 45 minutes. I can do it in a pressure cooker, so I don't need to wait. And I'm a very last minute person by nature. So I like the pressure cooking option. Pressure cooking is basically the speed. It slow cooks in much faster time. So let's say you were to make chickpeas.
But a lot of people have felt quite nervous, I think, in the past of pressure cookers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And is
But
there
no,
one
no,
that
no.
you would recommend?
If you're like new to cooking and you're really scared and you know like you want an all-in-one, then the Instant Pot, because it's a rice cooker, slow cooker.
I've just looked up at the clock. We've been chatting, and you and I could just chat forever. We've actually only got 47 seconds left
Dear.
because of the scheduling of the show. But please, would you come back again? Because everybody's been smiling, sending love while you're chatting.
Yeah, I see some people
really
I know. Hi Fatma, hi Badur, amazing.
All your friends. I mean,
Yeah.
I love it. You've really helped me. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for tuning into Happy Families with Principal
Thank you
Lisa.
so much.
I'm Lisa. This is Mamalou. And
see you at the cooking studio.
I'll see you in the cooking studio. So thanks everybody for joining me. This will be saved for 24 hours on Pearl FM. All right.